Someone said to Mulla one day, "Why do you always answer a question with a question?" And he said, "Do I?" There have been a lot of questions asked over the years, and there's no doubt everyone has realized that the questions are not able to be answered by the mind. They can only be experienced. But one thing we recognize and realize, that once something has been realized, it can be expressed in our own way, at any time. Over these last weeks, the question has been asked, how do we know we're in a state of Satchitananda? How do we know when we're in a state of existence, knowledge and bliss? And it's also been said, and really in the form of a question, do we realize that every element of every story is an aspect of our self, our psyche? And it's also been said, but also in the form of a question too, that there are 4 levels to every story, and they can be understood at those 4 levels. The first one is that the story has a moral or a teaching. And the second is that we recognize its symbols or its archetypes. And thirdly, that we recognize its interrelatedness, its oneness, that place where we have compassion and empathy and pity. But that stories also have a secret. And there's only one secret. But until and unless, like the state of Satchitananda, unless we can experience it, experience all 3 levels simultaneously, we cannot, in the case of Satchitananda, move on to what is beyond Satchitananda. And in the case of the stories, to glean, understand, live their secret. But just to be a little technical, there's a reminder of a story that allows us to explore this a little bit more. And it's the story of a young man, handsome, tall, virile, who decides that he's had a calling to go on a quest. But he hasn't gone too far when he's seduced by a crone, a witch. And with incantations and spells, she gradually draws him under her power. Now, when she feels that he's completely in her thrall, she says to him, "Now, you must do my bidding. You must go out and find the pitcher, the ewer, the jug that is never empty." So fired up with his quest to obey the old crone, the young man sets out to find the pitcher that is never emptied. On the way, he has to scrounge for a living. He has to find ways to eat, work to do, to keep body and soul together. And on the way, he asks everybody he meets where he might find this pitcher. And he's led on a merry dance because there are a lot of people who think they know. But after a long, long while and many, many adventures, he comes to an old man sitting under a tree. And the old man asks him what it was that he's seeking, and he's told. And the old man tries to deter him from his quest, giving him certain arguments. But the young man is not to be deterred. All he knows is he has to obey what the old woman said. So it's like he didn't even hear what the old man was saying. Although he was courteous, he thanked him. But when the old man was not able to deter him in any way, he opened a knapsack that was beside him, and he took out a jug, and he gave it to the young man. And he said, "Here is the jug that will never be empty. Take it to your master." But there is more to the story than this. But the young man, hardly hearing what the old man had said, hastened back to the abode of the old crone and gave her the ewer. She was delighted, and after testing that it could never indeed be emptied, she said to the young man, "Now you have another task to undertake. You must find the purse that whenever it is opened will give a gold coin." So the young man, again fired up with this request, went off to seek the purse that when opened gave a gold coin. And again his travels took him far and wide and far and wide. In fact, he almost circumnavigated the whole globe. But finally, he found himself again at the place where the old man sat under his tree. And again the old man asked him, and he responded. And again the old man brought about certain arguments and said, "Don't you remember your last quest?" And no, the young man was totally befuddled, hardly even comprehending what the old man had said. But then the old man opened his knapsack again and took out a purse and gave it to the young man and said, "This is the purse that whenever it is opened will produce a gold coin. Give it to your master." But this is not the end of the story. And with that, the old man took out of his knapsack a little sachet, and he gave it to the young man. And he said, "If you throw this into a fire, whatever is beside the fire will be consumed forever." But the young man was quite distracted. He hardly heard what the old man said, but he put the sachet in his pocket, and taking the purse, he returned to the old witch. She was delighted. She couldn't wait to open the purse and produce the gold coins. She herself was a little distracted, but then she turned to the young man and she said, "I have another job for you to do for me. You must go and find the beautiful maiden called Fatima. She belongs to me. She will become my servant as you are. Go, find her in her distant kingdom and bring her to me." Well, the young man again set out, and his travels took him far and wide until he was finally beside the castle in which the princess, the beautiful Princess Fatima, lived. When he presented himself to her, there was no need for him to take her by force. After all, he was tall, handsome, virile. She instantly fell in love with him and went with him willingly. Taking her back to the old crone, they found that the house was almost filled with gold coins. The old crone couldn't help herself, opening the purse again and again and again. But he said, "You see, I've done as you told me to do. I bought the maiden Fatima." Still a little bit distracted, the old witch was about to begin her incantations, casting her spells and weaving it around the maiden, when Fatima recognized the great danger, and she shouted, "Save me! I love you!" to the young man. And suddenly it was as though veils fell away from him, rapidly, one after the other. And his mind, his consciousness cleared. And instantly, putting his hand in his pocket, he pulled out the sachet and threw its contents into the fire by which the old crone sat. And instantly, poof, she was gone forever. We know the end of this story. Fatima and the young man married and lived royally on the contents of the house and never wanted. They had the pitcher that was never empty and the purse that always produced a gold coin. So let's get a little technical here. Even though it can be said that questions cannot be answered, they can only be experienced. Let's make an analysis and see what happens for us, just as we can do in the state that is called Satchitananda, where existence, the nitty-gritty, cause and effect level of life, that level of intuition, dreams, magic, and oneness come together seamlessly. Let's see what happens when we do that with this story. Remembering that every element of this story is an aspect of ourself, our psyche. First of all, what is the lesson? What is the moral that you glean from this story? What is its lesson? Its moral?
Is it that unless we're conscious, we can't see the big picture?
Yes. Yes.
There's
Elizabeth.
more, isn't there?
Yes, there's more. But
It was love that lifted the veils
yes.
to see what was real.
So how do we make a moral out of that? Is that a recognition that we have from this, that love is the predominant factor in this story? Do you think?
Love overcomes
Mm-hmm.
evil, I suppose, for want of a better word. Love
So-
gets to the truth. Maybe.
Okay, so let's go on to the second level of it. What are the symbols, the archetypes in the story? Remember, all of that which is contained in the story is in ourselves.
The young man was a hero.
He was a hero, yes.
There was a heroine.
Uh-huh.
There was a wicked.
Which, uh-huh.
There was a wise man.
All right. Okay, these are all archetypes and symbols that we can relate to ourselves, isn't it? And thirdly, what is that which is might be a thread, you would call it, or that evidence of interrelatedness in the story? Did you bring the circle around to begin with? What is it that binds it all together?
Is it the questing?
The questing. Could it be the questing?
Because even though the questing is kind of evil driven to begin with, it ends up being all good.
All right.
You have to do it to get there.
Okay. So what happens when we put it all together?
Don't stop looking.
Hmm?
Don't stop looking.
Yes.
He start the quest with his ego,
All right.
met someone wise, but wisdom can't be passed on.
Mhm.
It needs to be
All right.
experienced. But it's kind of gave him a seed that will be useful whenever he will start waking up.
All right.
And then he meet loves.
Right.
Loves open up the door, and then wisdom can
Can-
be accessible,
Very good. Yes.
experience.
Experienced. Yes. So does that give us an aperture into the secret of this, of any story, of any experience that we have? Any experience, no matter what it is. And every experience has the same secret, doesn't it?
Secret could be that the answer was always there.
All right. Okay. Or everything that we need is right here.
Yes.
Can be interpreted in many ways, can't it? Did it work? That ploy? I don't know. If it did, I might have a job. Bye, I'm going on holidays. But it does make absolute sense, doesn't it? Because we know it from the state of Satchitananda. Don't we? Thank you.